Why does a new president put his hand on the Bible to take his oath of office? It's because the Bible is the soul of Western civilization. In this segment, I want to raise the question, can Obama save the economy? The answer is not without the Bible, because it's the Bible that explains the West's economic success. Once the recent economic crisis erupted on Wall Street, this is how President Bush explained the core problem.
There has been a widespread loss of confidence, and major sectors of America's financial system are at risk of shutting down.
What does trust have to do with success of an economy? In 1980, I was invited to speak first in England and then in Holland. My plane took off from Delhi at about 2 o'clock in the morning. Next to me, an Indian gentleman was sitting. When he heard that I was living in a mud hut in the middle of nowhere in a district that he had never heard about, he took it upon himself to get me out of my mission and to relocate to England and become a businessman there. His main argument was that doing business was very easy in England. Something intrigued me. My English was poor, his was worse. I began to wonder, how could an Indian who cannot speak one sentence of correct English succeed as a businessman in England? Without blinking an eyelid, he said, it's because everyone there trusts you. It was in Holland that I began to understand what my fellow passenger was trying to explain to me. I was being hosted by a charity in Holland that was giving money to many projects in India, including to us. My wife and I were staying in the home of the director of this charity, and one afternoon he asked me to come with him to get a jug of milk. We walked for about a mile through beautiful Dutch countryside and walked into a dairy. We walked into the room where all the milk was collected in a huge boiler. There was no one there to sell the milk. I assumed that my friend would ring the bell or wait for someone to come and sell the milk, but my friend just went on, opened the tap and filled his jug with milk. Then he put the jug down, reached out to a windowsill where there was a bowl full of cash that I had not noticed. He brought the bowl back down, took out his wallet, took out 20 guilders, put it in that bowl, took the change, put it into his wallet, put the wallet into his pocket, picked up his jug and started walking. I was stunned. I said to him, man, if you are an Indian, you will take the milk and the money. He laughed. In that moment of laughter back there in Holland, I understood what my passenger in the plane was trying to explain to me. If we walked away with the milk and the money, the dairy owner will have to hire a sales girl to sell the milk. Who will pay for her? Me, the consumer. But if the consumers are dishonest, untrustworthy, why would the dairy owner and the dairy sales girl, why would they be honest? They will add water to the milk to increase the quantity to make more money, and I will then be paying not just for the sales girl but also for the water. Being an activist, I will protest that our milk is adulterated. The government must appoint milk inspectors. Who will pay for the milk inspectors? Well, me, the taxpayer. But if the consumer and the supplier are dishonest, untrustworthy, why should the milk inspector be trustworthy? They will use the laws in the law rule books to extract bribes from the supplier. Who will pay for those bribes? First the supplier, but then he will pass on the additional expense to the consumer. So by the time I'm paying for the milk, the water, the sales girl, the inspector, and the bribe, I don't have surplus money to take my children to an ice cream party on Saturday night. I'm unable to patronize a legitimate economic activity. The person who turns milk into ice cream and sells it, he's adding value to the milk. The sales girl or the inspector or the bribe or the water, they are adding no value. That's obviously an illustration from a microeconomic enterprise. But it does highlight the heart of the problem, as not just President Bush but also President Obama have repeatedly said that the problem of American economy right now is the problem of trust. The problem began with economic giants such as Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae began to go bankrupt. What was happening? Nations such as China had invested something like $650 billion in these two companies. China is a poor nation. Why did they invest such huge amounts of money in government-sponsored enterprises in America? That is because they trusted America and they trusted American government. But what was happening? The culture of integrity, trust, hard work, merit that we talked about in another episode is being replaced by clever ideas, better phrases and words, ingenious tricks to deceive people and investors. In this case, people had been given loans, mortgages that they could not repay. And these totally insecure mortgages were pulled together and they were sold as securities. People trusted these institutions because they had trusted America's culture, economic culture, while they could not trust their own governments, their own banks, and their own financial institutions. But that culture of trust is now going. The question is, how was this culture of trust cultivated in Holland, in England, in America?